This
Rocket Child.
is Rocket Child.
Rocket Child. Rocket Child. It's Rocket Child.
Rocket Child. Yeah.
Hello everyone, this is Jessica. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how I did a second music video, which is called The Princess and the Honeybee. I made this for the artist Sonia Disappear Fear. And so when I first met with Sonia, we sat down and had a meeting where she told me about the idea of this song. So Princess and the Honeybee is that it's a very narrative story, and I believe she was in Holland doing a music workshop, and she created the song in collaboration with another fellow called Casper. And this story is about a princess who lives on a rose, and she fell in love with a honeybee, and that no matter how much she tried, she couldn't get the bee to love her back. And so the main theme about this song is you can't force love. So when it came to just going through the brief, I had my sketchbook with me and just writing down ideas of what was the main themes of the song, what was important to put in, and because the lyrics are so narrative, it was easier for me to come up with imagery and imagine things. And so I then did some storyboards, um, so just quick sketches to get the general gist of the storyline as well as character designs. And because this is an animation, I like to do designs in terms of how I'm going to imagine motion, um, how the camera is going to move, and different transitions and symbolism to incorporate. So originally, the the princess, she had a very kind of typical fairy tale princess design. Um, I imagined that her crown would be like the pollen of a flower, and that her skirt would be the petals. And eventually it evolved. So, how I imagined it was that the princess, instead of her being, say, like a little human girl living inside the flower, perhaps maybe she is the flower. And so, in that way, the rose bud became her body, her lower body, and her skirt. For the bee, there are two designs. One is like the little animal, cute little animal bee, and the other one is the humanoid type bee, so uh, which the princess falls in love with. And so Sonia told me that even though she uses the pronoun he, she later discovered that bees have the same gender. And so the design, I changed it to make the bee look a bit androgynous, that you couldn't really tell if it was a boy or a girl. And I made his clothing look a little bit like a uniform. So imagining a bee's work ethic being like a gardener going out every day to pollinize the, the flowers. Pollinize, pollinate, whatever. So, based on the original story, I refined the illustrations and tried to, I guess, find deeper meaning so that I'm able to, I guess, create a good story. And what would what would make a princess living in a flower fall in love with a bee? And in what way would he not be interested? So, as I said before, like a bee tends to be hardworking. It goes out into the garden, pollinates all sorts of different flowers. From his point of view, he's just going out doing his work, just buzzing around. For the princess, I then kind of imagined, because she's part of the flower and she's stuck to the stem of the rose bush. I imagined that even though she um, is the ruler of this great, beautiful garden, and everything that she sees in front of her, the reality is that she can't move anywhere. She's restrained by um, by the rose bush, and so there's a sense of probably fantasy and adventure that she longs for. And so the bee, on the other hand, the bee can fly and is like very quick and agile and goes wherever he likes without any worrying. So I imagined that the contrast between these two characters is what makes the princess fall in love. That the sense of freedom that the bee represents in being able to go wherever it wants and to just be so carefree. And I imagine that to be the motivation. Along with the princess and the bee, there is a third character in this story, and that is the garden itself. Both of these characters, the flower and the bee, they compared to us human beings, they're very small, they're tiny, and yet for them, this little garden is their entire universe. And so it was important to create that world. The princess falls in love with the bee, and it seems to be like a passing of time. And often you can't really judge like time very easily. So how I did it was through nature's way of time, which is day and night, the changing of the seasons. And so imagining what it would be like as the sun comes up and the quality or the color of that sun in the morning as opposed to an afternoon colored sun. Um, Imagining what a warm day would be compared to a cold and stormy night. So taking into account like atmospheric changes that shows that time is passing and yet at the same time it feels like no time is passing because in the princess's experience of falling in love, it seems to be timeless. In the same way, with that symbolism, I imagine that really flowers and plants have their own timelines, and that in winter, plants die and flowers move on. And so there's this contrast between the humanoid characters of the princess and the bee, but there's also the contrast between the nature that is of plants and the bee. For me, when I do my animation designs and such, I tend to put a lot and lot of thought behind the process. So the final outcome may seem very streamlined and simple, yet the reality is I've put a lot of time and thought into it and managed to take a whole bunch of ideas and reduce them to the really good ones, the core ones, and be able to put symbolism through it. So, following from the music, um, and say the formula of music, where it has the verses and the choruses, I tried to mimic that as well in the animation process. So, certain cuts, camera cuts, and angles that would repeat following the musical repeats, and yet still have enough change to show the evolution of the story. This project was really, really fun for me, I gotta say, because I took it as a challenge to be able to try out different techniques in terms of coloring. Um, in this animation, there's a lot more emphasis on color theory, getting the right lighting and shadows to mimic the times of day. So, me being able to figure out how to formulate that for the animation process was a new and fun challenge for me. After that, I just did the usual that I normally do. It's important to have a really good storyboard, in my opinion, especially if you have a project that has certain restraints and time and budget. I think it helps realistically ground your ideas, and in terms of communicating with your like collaborators and clients, it also is a way of saying, hey, this is the blueprint, this is the sketch of what the design will look like in the future. And from that, you can build upon that sketch, knowing the direction and path you want to go. And from that, I did the animation, did the coloring, composited all the shots together, did the color grading, and made sure everything fit really well with the music, because in this sense it's a music video and you want that the artwork complements the music and really enhances it. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the project. I think I finished it a while ago, but finally it's out. It's been released officially, and I'm just really happy, I guess, to share it and that other people can see it and enjoy it. As always, Sonia is such a pleasure to work with. Her music is really beautiful, but also the lyrics that she writes, there's a lot of depth, and she writes about things that are important to her. I really respect her for that. Anyway, thanks for watching this video on how I managed to work through this project. And I bet you're probably all waiting, like after watching this, you're saying, wait, let me go see the video, show me the music video. And you can see it. So I'm going to put the link here and you'll be able to go for it and have a look at the music video for The Princess and the Honeybee. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like learning more about my artistic process and just seeing really cool things in general, please check out my channel, which is Rocket Child. You can also find me on different social media channels as well, and keep up that way. So anyway, if you like my stuff, please comment below so I can know, so I know, so I know. So I know, like, if you're interested in particular topics or anything, or if there are parts that really captivated you in my video making. Anyway, hope you have a good day. See you later. Bye.